I'm in there.
Okay.
I'm still like an incredibly proud man where I'm like, I don't need readers, but I'm also like this guy.
Yeah.
That's a little bit better.
Sure, yeah, that's great. Alright, just gonna make me bust out my flashlight.
Okay.
All right. Well, welcome back. I wish I could say welcome back under better circumstances. I do have a few minutes of announcements before we get to our speaker today. First of all, we want to say that the university is committed from the president's office through the School of the Arts, the dean, and our personal department head in art design to deliver exceptional care. And what that means is we really want you guys to succeed despite the challenging circumstances. What that translates into practical terms is we're going to offer a little bit more leniency on some of these assignments as much as we can up to the end of the block. The big news is that we are going to drop one of the lectures. Matt Page's lecture, who was lecturing for illustration last week, because of the sad events, we had to reschedule. As it turns out, Jeff Lamson, who was going to be speaking for drawing and painting on October 2nd, had a conflict, so he dropped out, and Matt Page will be rescheduled for October 2nd. We will not be scheduling a 7th class session to make up for the missing session, so it means that your grade will now be calculated instead out of 7 notes and 7 discussions will be 6 notes and 6 discussions. So that means your notes and discussions are weighted a little bit more. That's just unavoidable. But we are going to be a little bit more lenient in accepting those. We're instituting a 24-hour grace period on the deadlines for those submissions. And if you are struggling, please reach out and contact us. Contact me or Kyson, and we can work with you if you need more time than that. As much as we can possibly do. We're coming up to the end of the block really quick. We're only really 3 weeks away from the end of the block. The other announcement is that if people have difficulty and can't get here in person, we are now making the recordings of these lectures available. Now, we strongly encourage you to come in person if you're at all able to. The coming in person is the only way that you can get the Q&A session at the end, and it's really a much better dynamic environment for both our speakers and for our students. So we strongly encourage you to come if you can. If you can't, however, you can look on the Canvas site, and at the very top of the menu on the left, you'll see Course Media. That will allow you to access the recording. We've been asked by the admin to do that for the next 2 weeks. And since we're basically 2 weeks away from the end of the semester, from the end of the block, however, we'll be doing it for the rest of the block. So that is an option that's available. But again, I strongly encourage you to come to class and be part of this experience. If you have any other questions, if you have any other problems, don't hesitate to ask me or Kyson. Again, we're trying to get through this time and accommodate people where they're at as best as we can. So send those comments in to me and Kyson. That's all I have to say. I'm now going to pass the time off to John Bivey, who's going to introduce our guests.
Good night. How are you guys doing today? How many designers do we have in the room? Okay. So this is a treat because our speaker tonight has experience nationally, internationally, but he's homegrown. He's here and he has a studio in Salt Lake, but they do national and international work. He's been in the business for 20 years and has worked for Jones Soda, Snowboard, K2 Brand, Ride, Morrow, Roxy. They're currently doing work for places like Riot Games, Public Coffee, Ghost, the drink, the energy drink, Prime, and the University of Oregon football team. That's a wide range of design. And so if you're into cutting edge, crazy, maximalist style design, this is your guy. So, no. All right. I lied. Anyway, so he's been around the block, been in the business for a long time. He and I have threatened to work together a couple times. We've tried and failed on some projects. But if I had to admit of anybody that I had a design crush on, it would be him, okay? So please pay attention because he's got a lot of experience, a lot of things to say, and it's going to be a good night, okay? Take it away.
Thank you for that. Shoot, my heart's kind of like pitter-pattering a little bit. If you guys ever want to feel ridiculously old, come back to your school like 20 plus years later. Just kind of walk around and take a look at the faces, and you'll start to quickly realize how old and tired you are. Like, I can barely see like the back row, so like that's kind of what I'm working with tonight. This is a little bit of a full circle for me. It was UVSC. In fact, where'd you go? It's back there. I see a shadow. I discovered graphic design here at UVSC, UVCC possibly. I can't remember like when they switched over formally, but my introduction to graphic design was RubyLib and kerning type the hard way and setting type, and so that was kind of the beginning of my path. And not to belabor that, because we've clearly like come a long way since then, but I had something else that I wanted to talk about with you all, and then the world shifted last week, and I kind of had a little bit of a come to Jesus and some things that I was thinking about and things that applied to me and my journey, and I just wanted to kind of tell you a little bit about who I am, where I've been, what I've done. I've got a lot of work that I can show off as well if you want to talk that out. But I've had the pleasure over the past couple of years to drop my oldest boy off here at school. And still am. He's a sophomore in Lehigh High School. He probably hates that I'm even acknowledging him at this point. But the other morning on my way in fact, I think it was the morning of the event, there was a song that came on, and for good or for bad, I look for little clues and just little things to like kind of up my energy, my positivity for the day. And on this morning, this song jumped out at me, like Blind Melon, like Shannon Hoon passed away 1995, like old. But there's a line at the beginning of the song that says, and they'll say, hey, look at him, I'll never live that way, and that's okay, they're just trying to change. And when you feel like life ain't living, you gotta stand up, take a look around, look up way to the sky, hell yeah. And when your deepest thoughts are broken, keep on dreaming, boy, because when you stop dreaming, it's time to die. Now, I'm a storyteller, and I'm going to wander around. I'll probably get off in a tangent. I'll probably abandon most of these thoughts that I put down for y'all. But in that moment, driving him to school, listening to the song, seeing all the kids kind of walking into school, I kind of had one of those moments where I kind of like laughed a little bit. I'm like, sucker. I'm like, you have no idea what's ahead of you. Like, so much time, so much life to live. And as I thought about it, and I thought about my journey, knowing that this engagement was coming up, I was trying to figure out, like, what am I going to talk about? What do I bring to the world? My course, like, in the course of my career, I've done a lot of brand building. We can get into that. But I look for stories, I look for emotions that I can leverage. And in that moment, that was kind of where it dawned on me what I wanted to talk about. And that's me. That's me circa 1989. Lehigh High School, Roman, right there. You've probably seen that picture. I point back to this picture and this slide that I've used over and over and over and over again a gazillion times, because this is the beginning of my journey. As much as discovering graphic design here at UVU was kind of a moment, this is what I wanted to do the rest of my life. The color, the energy, the community, the vibrancy, the music, the punk rock, the metal, everything. I wanted to do that the rest of my life. And in that moment, when I was his age, literally, that was kind of what I chose to do. I chose to like be a part of this community and be a part of this type of an influence the rest of my life. I didn't know, I literally had no idea where it was going to take me. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew that I just wanted to do that, and I wanted to do hood rat shit with my friends the rest of my life. Period. End of story. And so, what does that have to do with you all? Well, maybe you can relate to this, and I have these moments daily, but I get creative fatigue, meaning like because I am so immersed with having to produce, having to create, I sometimes forget. I don't trust myself. I don't understand what I'm doing, like, you know, who I am to the world. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Because it's all nonsense in a lot of ways. It's colors, it's shapes, it's emotion. And this was one of those moments where I woke up like January 1st, 2024, in one of those funks. I'm like, I'm losing touch. The kids don't respect me anymore, meaning like the young designers. And I'm like, I still got a lot in the tank. I still have a lot to bring to the world. And so on that day, I set out to create a single skateboard graphic every day of the year for 2024. I had no idea what and why I was doing that. And honestly, like I got 2 or 3 days rather in, and I was like, I've made a colossal mistake. Because I already announced it to everybody on LinkedIn. I'm like, all right, I'm doing this project, pay attention to me. You know, I'm gonna be putting it up on Instagram, come and like my shit. It was hard, to say the least. But I got to the end of it, like December 31st of 2024, and I finished. I was proud of myself, and I turned around and I had that moment again. I'm like, why did I do this? Like it was so exhausting, and when you start to factor in vacations and kids' schedules and work and life and all the things that would keep me away from it day to day. Like there were some days that I skipped, which only meant that I had to like make it up the following couple of days. And so I would, if I missed a day, I would kind of do like a double set the next day. And if I missed more days than that, then there was like a 4 set. And they're all tied in. But the insight is, it's because I freaking love this. I mean, like that was the moment, January 1st, 2025, when I woke up, I'm like, I do this because I freaking love it. Like I went back to that moment when I was his age, the excitement, the color, the energy, and I refound what that driver was for me. And it's because I love creating. I love the journey. I love my clients. I love the people that I work with. I love the trauma. I love the fact that when I get into work 9 a.m. and I'm terrified of what I need to do because I don't think I have anything left, but I can kind of go back to that moment as a 14-year-old little skater kid in Lehigh, Utah, and go, okay, I got this. You know, and I kind of I framed this poster and it hangs in my office, and just kind of it's a subtle reminder to like why I do what I do. And so, how is this relevant to you guys? Well, like I said, I'm a storyteller, so I'm going to tell a little bit of my journey, and I can get this clicker to work, John. There we go. So, this would have been 2001. Like I said, I did some time here at UVU, left. On a whim, I sent my portfolio over to BYU and somehow got in with a 2.9 GPA. I had to get dragged into the dean's office, and I had to promise to be on my best behavior, that I would do all the things, and I would turn my homework in, and I'd be a good student, and I did. So I got into BYU. For good or for bad, like it was an experience. I loved my time there. I loved the people that I met. I loved learning about like the history of graphic design, history of art, and how it all kind of like pulled together. But in a lot of ways, I was still a complete fish out of water. Like, here was this 20-something Hesh kid, my hair was black, like I was that guy, just kind of kicking against the pricks as it was. And I had a different way of viewing the world. Like my worldview was through the lens of like skateboarding and metal and punk rock and kind of grit and grind. And if you're familiar with BYU, it's another school on the other side of town, blue, there's a letter on the that's not part of their program for the most part, if at all. And so I would fight. I would fight with Linda. I would fight with Eric. It was when it's time to like put my magazine together, my portfolio and my packaging system. It was all centered around this world. like skateboarding. That was my visual language. Coming out of school, it was, like I said, 2022 or 2002. Is anybody, are you guys even alive? Okay, good. Okay, there's some people here. There was a huge recession. Nobody was hiring, and so I was coming out of BYU, kind of this punk kid with a chip on my shoulder because nobody liked my stuff. And I floated my book up and down the West Coast. Nobody was hiring. I would get into interviews where they would look at my book, look at what they do, and kind of go, Can you do this? I'm like, that's easy. Like that's a walk in the park. I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, I can do that. Nobody hired me. I had student loans mounting, piling up. So I panicked and I took a job at Novell, which I don't think that exists anymore, but it was one of the OG like tech companies here in Utah Valley. I found myself waking up every day, Dockers, polo shirt, embroidered logo, like I was towing the line and I hated myself for it. 100%, like I was miserable, completely miserable. I had lost track of everything, of who I was, what I was doing, the joy that I found in creating, and I was just resigned. I'm like, this is the rest of my life. Every Thursday was stroganoff, and that was like the highlight of my week in the cafeteria at Novell. So, on a whim, I headed up to Seattle to visit a friend. And while I was there, I was checking out the lay of the land, agencies, boutiques, and I was just floating my book around, and I got a call. Immediately. It was surreal. Like, I sent my book in through this email, and I got a response within an hour. Unheard of. If you email me, like, chances are you're not going to hear from me for like 6 months. Yeah, he was pressing me to get this talk to you guys, and I'm like, I guess I got to type it out, and I did. But anyways, I'm like, Gabe, good friend and mentor, I talked to him on the phone. He's like, hey, I'm like, hey, I'm just here on vacation. I don't have my things. He's like, well, just come down and talk to me. I'm like, okay. And so at that time, coming out of school, I was pre-programmed coming out of BYU to like have my little attaché case, little mock turtleneck sweater. I had like some black corner rim glasses to fit the part. And I thought I was going to be walking into a big agency on account of the work that they were doing with like ride snowboards, Mattel Toys, Jones Soda, Microsoft, a lot of kind of the suspect Seattle or the Northwest brands. And so I was fully prepared to walk into this agency and kind of put my wares in front of them and kind of go like, oh yeah, I can do that stuff, that's cool, whatever. Anyways, went to the building and it was this nondescript industrial building, walked into this dark hallway, saw the door, there was nobody to be found, and I just gently knocked on it, and this guy, Gabe, flung the door open, and I remember this like vividly. Camel board shorts and like a white tank top. That's how he greeted me. My boss and my mentor and my good friend, that was the first moment that we spoke. And he's like, dude, come in, talk. And it was only him. Like, he was the only, he was the founder, but he was also the only employee. And I was like, this is a little suspect, but he's into me. And so we got talking about like my portfolio. He's like, dude, this is great. This is exactly what I've been looking for. I'm like, are you serious? Because I've been up and down the West Coast, Arizona, the West, like trying to find a job, and nobody understands what and why I did what I did. He's like, no, this is perfect. I took a job, pennies on the dollar, like I was still broke, but I was on my way, finally. I think I have his slides. No, I skipped it. So my time at General Public was awesome. He taught me. He literally like deprogrammed me of all the nonsense that BYU programmed into me in art school, in design school. Grid, Swiss grid, clean typography, all that stuff that I was like forced to do and that I fought against. He's like, yeah, throw that all away. He's like, we'll address that later, but first and foremost, you need to understand who you're talking to and why you're doing it. And then we can kind of figure out, you know, if it's a layout, we can kind of adjust the grid and kind of make these, like, make it look good first and foremost and worry about the other things later. Didn't make any sense. It was contrary to everything that was told to me. But my first project that he put me on, not on this page, was a snowboard. And at the time, my student portfolio was literally like skateboard graphics, skateboard wheels, packaging, magazine, all the things. And so when he's like, all right, he's like, here's your first assignment. I need you to design a snowboard for a teen boy. Go. That was the brief. Nothing else to it. I'm like, piece of cake. I got some of that like already. I'll have this done tomorrow. A couple days go by. I'm in there. I was literally working on like a high chair like that and like a desk. That's why my back hurts. I just realized like I was kind of doing this for like a week, noodling this first skateboard, this first snowboard graphic that I was doing. And finally time came, he's like, all right, Jerry, this is what you got. I'm like, I got it. Showed him my single graphic. I only did one. He's like, he cussed like a sailor too, so if something's out, I apologize. But he's like, where's the rest? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that was perfect. That's exactly what it needs to be. And he immediately just kind of broke it down on why it was garbage. He's like, no. He's like, I can't do shit with this. He's like, I can't put this in front of a client. He's like, you've been working a week and that's all you got to show for it? I'm like, yeah, I mean, here in school, you guys have, what, like 2 or 3 months to work on a single thing, and spoiler alert, when you get into the professional world, it's going to be much quicker, much faster. So I just kind of broke, and he literally said, he's like, oh man, he's like, I'm questioning whether I should have hired you. And I was panicking. I'm like, dude, I need the job. I got student loans. I'm up here in Seattle. All my stuff's back. Anyways, and so the point of the story is, he sat down in that moment, and literally in front of me, on my computer, cranked out 4 or 5 graphics right in front of me. And I was like blown away. I was like, oh shit, like, how did you do that? He's like, I've been thinking about it. And then, you know, by the time it comes to get to the computer, I already know what I'm gonna do. So he's like, that's my process. I'm like, tell me more about this process. I need to know about this process. He's like, it's mine. He's like, you gotta figure yours out. I'm like, great. Panicked. That was a big eye-opener for me because I realized in that moment that his process was his, obviously, and I had to kind of figure out what my process was going to be, or how did I move all this forward. So, again, like, solid guy. He was incredibly patient with me, and he allowed me to go back to like that version of myself of 14, the excitement, the things that inspired me, the parts of visual communication that like resonated with me, and explore that for his clients. And that's why he hired me. He's like, it's that kind of thinking, that's why you're sitting here, and that's why we are working together, because he's like, your worldview and the way that you understand subcultures and the way that you can leverage subcultures is incredibly important when you're talking about like niche consumers, niche products, and how you can begin to meet them where they're at with their visual language. And so this is a little bit of some of the samples of the work that I did at my time with Gabe. Like I said, eternally grateful, still dear friends, we talk, and he kind of helped me on my path. So fast forward, I'm from Utah, my wife's from Utah, she hated Seattle. I don't know if anybody's from Seattle, I apologize, but she did not like it up there, and she was like, I need to move home, you can come with me, or you stay here and work with Gabe. I'm like, all right, I'll come home, and I did. So I told Gabe, I'm like, hey, I need to move back home. I'm sorry, this is it, this is the end. He's like, do you want to buy the company? I'm like, oh no. I never inspired to be a business owner. And in that moment, he's like, all right, well, I'm shutting the business down. I'm like, that's aggressive. Like, that's, I'm like, oh, okay. And literally like 4 days later, his agency, General Public, was shut. We moved all the shit out of there, and I came back home with my tail between my legs, and so I don't know what I'm gonna do. Luckily, a lot of these clients, like a lot of, you know, the specific, like the snow sports, the rides, the K2s, the Roxys, they knew that like me and my team, there was a team by the time I left there, were doing the work. Gabe was kind of a figurehead. He was the creative director, but if you know most creative directors, they don't do anything. They just kind of like sit back and steal your ideas, right? I've done that. But they came knocking. They found me. They're like, hey, we still have all this work that we need done, and we need you to do it. I'm like, okay, I know how to do it. And they're like, all right, just invoices. I'm like, what does that mean? They're like, well, okay, like, you know, this is what we paid Gabe, so just send us an invoice for this. I'm like, all right, sweet. Did the work, and the point of this conversation is that there's a lot of business decisions that, as creatives, that you need to understand that, like, time is money, and you are very much a business. And that was kind of like the moment of reckoning where I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to figure some things out, because at the time, a lot of their conditions were like, net 90, net 30, net 60. And if you don't know what that means by the time the work is done, they don't pay you until 30, 60, 90 days out. And if you're like me, and you need a house, and you need food, and you need things to like keep you moving forward as a human being, not getting paid for 90 days can be a little bit of a problem. So I learned a lot in that first chapter of leaving General Public when it came to like the business side of being a creative and delivering for clients, interacting with clients, talking to clients, meeting their goals, their objectives. And that eventually, that moment of them continually like feeding me work is how Super Top Secret came to be. That was kind of the moment. And as part of my journey, I love this. Like, I love doing this stuff. Like, I don't know if I can say that enough. Like, I'm still designing snowboards. In fact, I got 28 that I need to somehow figure out. Like, I'm panicking on the inside thinking about it because I need to start that tomorrow. But as they kept coming back to me and they kept asking for additional work, additional capabilities, illustration. Did he leave? Oh, there he is. When we were talking about doodling and illustrating, like taking these like foundational, like illustrating. How many illustration students do we have? Oh, geez, quite a few. Good for you guys. I hated taking my illustration class. I already vented about it. I'm like, yeah, it's garbage. Like lowlights, highlights. I don't need to know that. Like, waste of time. Snowboards are gone. As you can see, like there's still a lot of illustration that I have to somehow figure out. Either like somehow find a way to produce, hire an artist, get the vision for whatever it is out of my head to kind of help them bring it to pass. Copywriting, I can't imagine that there's any copywriters in here, but like they were asking for messaging, for branding, for, you know, this is pre-content, this is this is like MySpace, if that means anything to you guys. This is pre-Facebook, it's almost before smartphones. And so clients kept asking for all this additional stuff, websites, apps, like they were asking this stuff and I had to somehow, I'm also a yes man, like I don't like turning anything down ever, which is why I'm here.
Thank you.
And so I'm also the mentality, I'm like, okay, I'll figure it out. You want a website? I'll freaking figure it out. There's people out there that I can lean on to figure out. So as additional requests came in, additional capabilities were kind of brought into the agency, and before we knew it, we were kind of humming along. And we, as John kind of alluded to earlier, like, yeah, we've done a lot of websites, we've done a lot of branding, a lot of packaging, and that's kind of the beginning of this. And that I don't want to end with that. I had a moment, and this is probably 10 years ago, if I'm thinking straight. This like smug little guy from Utah County walked into my office. He was a tech bro, and he was shopping for an agency. And he walks into my conference room literally like this. You've seen that Conor McGregor meme? Kind of did that. And he sat down and he immediately jumped. He's like, who is your dream client? And I've never really been asked that before. And in the back of my mind, I kind of had this like moment of reckoning. I'm like, oh my gosh. At that time, I was working with Nike. I was launching a tequila for Diageo, snowboards, video games for Ubisoft, Riot. I was the 14-year-old version of myself had finally just kind of, it was realized. I'm like, oh shit, like, I already have all my favorite clients. I don't need you. And that was just one of those things that I can't even remember if we ended up working with him or not. But it was that moment where I realized that I was already doing what I loved. Like in that moment, it finally dawned on me, like, I'm kind of here. Like I love this, still love this. And that was another one of those situations where, and I have them quite often, as it seems, where I kind of realize I'm like, okay, love, like that's the drive. That's the driver for me. Like I do this because I love it. I do it because I love clients. And here's. Spoiler alert, close your eyes. Shoot, I didn't put it in there. Okay, I'll tell you, here's a funny story. Kind of along the lines of that. Shortly after that guy left the office, did whatever. I got an email from this guy, Dan Laurencio. I don't expect you to know who he is. He was one of the founding twosome of Ghost. And he was incredibly private. He had just left his big C-suite job at Nutrabolt. If you know what that is, it's kind of like it's big in the supplement space. C4 energy drink, that rings a bell. He pinged us and he's like, hey, super top secret, I'm looking to create a brand. Most emails start out that way. I'm looking to start a brand. I don't have a lot of money. Would you guys be interested in talking? Yes, guy. I'll talk to anybody. I will do any work as long as I'm into it for pennies on the dollar because I'm cheap. And we kicked off. We started talking, and he still wasn't telling his full vision for like what this brand was going to become. He's like, I need a logo. The name's Ghost. Okay. And the image that I wanted to show you that I didn't put in here for some reason is literally like a spy goggle strap. Like that was the only piece of inspiration he had. He's like, that's what my logo, I want my logo to feel like this. Like the emotional side, right? I'm like, okay, piece of cake. It was big, and it literally resembles that, right? It's black and it's white and it's gold, and the amount of time that we had shaping the skirt of this ghost and the eyes, I'll never forget. I was just getting like incredibly frustrated. I'm like, dude, who cares? He did. And we noodled it for some time. But on a whim, I just happened to be in Las Vegas. Like I said, we had just launched a tequila for Diageo. They couldn't send bottles to Utah on account of federal or state regulations. So I had to drive down to Vegas in a wagon to grab 5 cases of tequila. He lived in Vegas. And we were just kind of wrapping up kind of the brand side of just like the logo and some treatments. And like, hey, let's meet up. And so we met up. And in his apartment, if you're traveling south through Vegas, on the west side of the freeway, there's 2 white towers. Doesn't matter. I don't know why I said that. Anyways, Pete Rose, if you know who Pete Rose is, lives in one of those. And so I saw Pete Rose. I love baseball, so that was also kind of a moment for me. But anyways, the point of the story is, we were at Dan's apartment, and we had just launched the new version of our website. And at the time, that version of the website had content and video and websites and apps and like advertising campaigns, and it was rich and it was beautiful. And he's like, why didn't you guys tell me that you did any of this stuff? I'm like, why didn't you ask if we did any of this stuff? Like, I mean, shame on me because I just assume that everybody knows what I do at any given moment of the day. But that was another moment. I'm like, yeah, we do all this stuff. And so that was then and there where he literally like kind of, not literally, that'd be weird, opened up the kimono and kind of like, all right, this is what Ghost is going to be. This is the vision. I'm like, sweet. And so we went on to build that brand. Labels, cans, powders, collaborations, all this nonsense. I had a moment a couple weeks ago on my way into work. I was heading down Redwood Road in South Jordan, and all of a sudden this like 18-wheeler truck goes ripping by me. And this logo, I kid you not, it must have been like 4 feet tall, 16 feet long, and all of this patterny stuff, this texture, was just like flying by me. And I couldn't help but just laugh. I'm like, it's comical. Like this kind of full circle in the universe. I'm like, that's funny. I haven't worked with Ghost in a few years because, like, honestly, they grew, they sold for $4 billion, insane money. But, you know, it is part of the journey. It's part of, like, I love this stuff. I still love seeing it. Like, I was in Mexico City about a year ago, and I saw the product there in 7-Eleven, and I was just kind of jonesing out. Like, it never gets old. It's so fun to see your work out in the wild, and to sit there and even now like study all this stuff and remember where, like, why I did that and what we were doing and like the story that we were telling. Love, like I love, like it warms my heart. So, I don't know. Why do you have a copy of that? I know there's the goggle strap for what it's worth. It exists. It really does. And like, look at that. Don't tell me that doesn't look like that logo, right? Like, talking about, like, finding inspiration. Like, there it is. So, where am I? Back in the thick of things. So, I have a problem. Thanks. I fall in love with clients. I fall in love with opportunities. I fall in love with employees appropriately because I love different people's like point of view. I love variety. In fact, I referred to my team at STFs as the Bad News Bears. Also, an incredibly old reference that I wouldn't expect anybody except maybe you to understand.
Anybody? Bad News
All right,
Bears.
there you go. Bad News Bears. Like, as I grew the agency, I thought I'd be able to get to a point where I could level up in talent. I'm finally going to be able to afford like that senior art director that's been around in LA and New York and has done all the things. And I did. I got to that point and I hired these people, these individuals. They're still friends. But what came with that was something that I didn't need. It was like the ego, them being jaded by the industry, them not caring and loving and having the passion for the work. They were there for a paycheck. They were there because they wanted to have the next whatever in their portfolio for like whatever is next for them. I had a moment in that where I realized I'm like, you know what? Give me the young, give me the hungry, give me the individuals that don't look and think like me. Like early on at STS, I would hire, because I needed friends, individuals that I could go stay with. It didn't work out that well. Like, some were like incredibly talented, but like I realized that I kind of missed the mark in what I was trying to do. So I had a mind shift of like, okay, I need to look for those diamonds in the rough. I need to look for those individuals that have a unique perspective on life, a unique way of like looking at visual communication. Not necessarily the way that I did, but differently. Meaning like things that inspire me, things that sources where I go to find inspiration, still to this day, are skate parks. To me, like a skate park is like the genesis of every trend. Like that's just me. Like I like watching the kids, incredibly talented skater right there, and their fashion and their influence and the colors and the shapes and the brands that they're into. I wanted individuals that kind of came from a different place, that like paid attention to hip hop or fashion week, or they had a different approach with their process. Like I am keenly, like I'm so hyper interested in each person's process and the way that they approach the work that when I get into like portfolio reviews like every spring, and are you guys seniors? Like junior, like what's the mix here? Anyways, the AIGA has like a portfolio review like every spring, and all the seniors come and they put their books in, and theoretically we're supposed to rip it apart and kind of make them feel like, you go back to school, be a doctor, you can do math, whatever. But I look for people that can think, like more so than like a polished portfolio. I want to see people that have unique ideas, unique concepts, knowing that there's going to be a support team alongside of them or behind them to like bring it across the finish line. That's going to give it the polish that it needs to be. And so I had that mind shift of like falling out of love with the people that I just wanted to go skateboard with at lunch to other individuals that came from different places. Like I had a couple from France, which was great because Rossignol, they're a French company and they speak French, and so it helped. But more so than that, just like different cultures, different lives, different approaches to things, like diversity, all the things that like really round out like solid concepts. Like I want them around me just like I can feed off them. Funny story with these two guys, Rod and Raj, Utah legends. There's always been like that Nike story about like the woman that designed the logo and she was paid $40 or whatever. This is my Nike. It's awful. I mean, it's not great. It's not bad. It's not good. But anyways, the first month of our existence, Rod was a champion meat smoker, and he was doing it out in the front of his house. And I don't know how he got connected. He's like, I'm going to a tournament in St. Louis, and I need a logo so I can make a banner. I'm like, all right, whatever. Here you go. Pig and some R's. He paid with a tin of pulled pork. That was it. Like, he just fed us. And he continued to feed us for years. Just he would just bring by catering of, meats and sauces and stuff. But we had a lot of fun. Still a good friend of just trying to find like that inroad with like a client, like what they're trying to do and like what motivates them. Like, I'm not keeping track of time, am I?
You're good.
Okay. When we get into brand building, like I said, like I'm always on the hunt for the emotional driver. Like we've kind of uncovered that, we call that like the brand ideal. And it's relevant to our conversation tonight. I keep talking about like love, like that's kind of like what motivates me, and maybe it's like a different word and a different form for what actually motivates me to go and create. Equally so, clients, entrepreneurs, brand founders, they have a reason for going into business as well. And I love getting into those conversations with them and uncovering like that truth of why they do what they do and how it affects like business decisions, product development, and I lost my train of thought where I was going with that. Yeah, Rod and Raj, good dudes, a lot of fun before they. Maybe this is the sad part of the story where these brands that go on and they sell for multi-million dollars, and Ghost was like $4 billion. Like we did a good job, apparently. So I would like to be on the other end of that spectrum at some point in time. More of the same. Sun Valley, and how much more time do I have?
Oh, 5.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I kind of finish out this train of thought. And I don't know what happened with the slides. Same thing, like Missy at Public Coffee, dear friend. I've sat on a board of directors with her for SpyHop. She literally, her request with this project was to open up a European-style cafe with the same attitude and aggression or thoughtfulness of her partner at the time, was from Santa Monica. He's like, I want this to be Alva Skateboards, which I'm like, ding, ding. Okay, I know exactly what you're saying now. Alva Skateboards meets French cafe, the beauty. And so when we get into that, when we're talking about like storytelling, and that's all we do as brand builders and designers, we're just telling stories. You know, like from the handcrafted black letter to the goat, which is actually pulled from Dutch culture. It's a Bokenrider, which I guess like in the middle of the night, if you're a bad kid, sneaks in and picks you up and whisks you away to who knows where. And so we started kind of looking at those kind of little touches for storytelling ability. Like Public is also Dutch. What was it like? It was Dutch for community. I think it's like ultimately what that said. Geez, I'm rambling because I'm running out of time, and more of this work we've done. We did a lot with Riot. This was an incubator out of Arizona that just wanted, it's called Honey House, and he wanted some attitude, and he was not afraid of honey on skulls, and so he get illustrated in-house. So, you know, for those designers, pay attention in these classes. And this will be the last story, I think. This is kind of fun. Friday night, coming home from work, I get a message on LinkedIn, and if you guys are on LinkedIn, connect with me, I'll add you. Anyway, I get this message from this guy. Hey, you guys are the ones that did Ghost, right? I'm like, yeah. I want to talk to you guys about a project. I'm like, all right, sweet, yeah. Let's see if we can find some time Monday, early next week, you know, to connect, business talk. And I sent him my cell number. It was like literally 8 p.m. on a Friday. His name's Trey. Sunday morning, 10 a.m., over coffee, I get a text message. Hey man, can you talk? I'm like, freak, dude, wait up. No, but I did. And it was just another one of those stories by the way that my journey goes. Like this dude was like, yeah, we wanna make a hydration drink to compete against Gatorade. I'm like, good luck. Good luck. He was also one of those guys who's like pretty careful with the amount of information that he gave us. And at this point, with his product Prime, he's like, yeah, we've got all the formulation, we got the bottle. It's gonna be in market in 2 months, but we don't have a brand. I'm like, how do you survive to get this far without a brand? Like, he's like, we have a name, and I'm like, all right, whatever. So he's like, so we need branding and we need labels in 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, $2, sweet, yeah, that'll cover it. It was a little bit of a scramble, and had I been a little more thoughtful with this, it would have been awesome to show you guys the amount of exploration that we did in a short amount of time, because there was essentially, everybody was a target. He's like, yeah, we don't want this to be for athletes, we just want this to be for everybody. Everybody needs to be hydrated. I'm like, sweet. So we're building a brand that's for everybody to be hydrated, and it's called Prime. Yes. And there's going to be a gazillion flavors. I'm like, sweet. Lots to think about. Come to find out, as you may or may not know, like he had like, I always get those brothers mixed up. Logan? They're awful, but honestly, I don't even know if it would. Design alone is like mediocre, mid at best. And so, like, clearly they had a little bit to do with it. But the amount of energy and fervor and visibility that that brand has brought to me in my inbox is absurd. There was a moment when it launched, and this would have been January of 23, 22, tail end of the pandemic. He was in 7th grade, and I get a text from him in the middle of the day. Dad, you did prime, right? Yeah. So, my friends don't believe me. Okay. What do I do here? So I literally sent him the PDF of all the exploration of it. I'm like, show this to your friends. I don't know, like, whatever. But they were literally like grabbing these bottles off the shelf, selling them on the black market at school for like $5 a bottle. And he just wanted like some street cred. I'm like, all right, yeah, cool, done. You got it. There you go. Yeah, your dad did prime. I happened to pick up my phone Sunday morning when Trey was calling, and here we are. And in closing, I haven't given up, like, these kind of talks always kind of weird me out. I feel like I have like some deep-rooted like mission trauma built in still. This is a story, and honestly, I know that I dragged him here. I had to bribe him to come, and he can attest to this. There's a story that I tell him all the time. And I'm not picking on you, Roman. I'm just telling the story because it's applicable. Like I said, like, incredibly talented skater. Everything that I've ever possibly wanted to be in life, he has done, like, hands down. But there's a lot of frustration that comes with skateboarding. Like, it's not easy. You fall down, you get hurt. You want to do a trick, you can't do a trick, whatever. I was told about this professional skier that kept trying something that had never been done before, like an MBD, I think is what they call it. And he was struggling. And while he was trying to do this trick that had never been done before, he was laughing the entire time. And everybody's like, why are you laughing? And he's like, I know I'm going to get it. He's like, it's just funny that it's taken this long. And when I heard that, I realized, I'm like, okay, I need to start Rosignol's 2028 snowboard line tomorrow morning. I'm paranoid, but I'm kind of laughing on the inside because I'm crying and simultaneously laughing. I know I'm going to get it done. I'm so afraid that I don't have anything left up here to be relevant again for another season of snowboards. But I'm also laughing. I'm like, I know I'm going to get there. I'm crying and I'm deathly afraid. I know I'll get there. And it's part of the journey. Like, it's part of my process. And more than anything, if the nugget for tonight is for the homework for you all, and if there's a quiz, whatever. Figure out your process. I didn't know that until Gabe kind of opened my eyes to like how I approached design, my own visual communication style, how I went about it, where I pulled inspiration from. You guys are young and hungry. Figure that out. Figure out what it is that like drives you. Like, is it the exploration? Is it the concepting of it? Is it the production? Is it like seeing it out in the world? It's all awesome. Love every freaking second of it and laugh along the way because you're going to get there. There's a place, and I say this to all the students every spring in that portfolio review. I'm like, hey, your book, your portfolio, I can't do anything with it. Either I'm going to hire you and bring you into my shop and make you do this stuff, and you're going to hate me because it doesn't speak to you. It's not motivating for you. But there's enough out there in the world for every one of us as a creative to like have a place at the table and to figure that out. But in order to do that, you need to figure out your process. You need to figure out like what your driver is. You need to figure out like what it is you love about illustration, photography, design, whatever that emphasis is. Define it for yourself and just go there over and over again. Rinse and repeat. That's all it is. Every day is Groundhog Day.
I enjoy it.
And scene. I'm done. Oh, there he is. I see this one.
Roll into Q&A? Or?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, fire away. Raise
Whoa.
hand, yell it out, whatever.
Wow. Okay, yeah, let's go.
How do you know when you're done tweaking the design? When is it done? Because to me, it feels like it's never done. There's always something I can push, always something I can do. I never know when to stop.
Great question. I think that comes with experience. But also, if you remember like that story they told about Gabe and like my first snowboard, I was doing that for a week, noodling. It's not until I was exposed to like how rapid exploration could be that I don't feel I've arrived at a solution until I've exhausted my exploration. And if you were to see like some of my files of just exploring, I try to uncover every last nook and cranny. And so it should be fast, it should be iterative, you shouldn't just noodle on one thing. Just get it all out of your head. And then, you know, the solutions will rise. There you go.
Yeah. Have you ever had a design that people like praise you for that you just didn't like yourself?
Every last little thing on this, yeah, hate it all. Embarrassed by it. You know, it's funny because, you know, time and distance provides a little bit of clarity. And so whatever the emotion was, like some of the stuff was hard to deal with. Like, as much as I love clients, they can be like really problematic. And so, yes, absolutely. There's a lot of work out there that I'm still like sort of embarrassed by. I'm like, I'm not going to put that out in the world, but I hope not to be judged by it. I guess is what it comes down to. It's like there's a lot of factors that go into good work. Client that trusts you, a good concept, a good brief, good production, and sometimes that perfect storm doesn't always exist. Sometimes you just have an awful client that just wants you to be a tool, like just a keyboard jog. You're like, a little left, can you make it bluer? And the logo bigger? I'm like, I'm dealing with that right now, and it's frustrating. But, happy client, what's the saying, like happy wife, happy life? Happy client, happy life also applies, so, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, when was the time you were designing something, but you felt like you've added a bit too much?
All this stuff. I mean, this might be a good example. There's a lot going on, but it also kind of makes the experience. And so the other lesson that Gabe taught me in that moment when we were iterating in real time, he's like, if you can design a snowboard, you can design anything. And I say that to my interns, I say that to my employees because it's inherently true. If you can design a snowboard for an individual, be it a 50-year-old snowboard guy to a 12-year-old little girl, and they're going to stand on that thing and stare at it year after year, it needs to have like depth. And so I understand the question, but a lot of times like the layering and the amount of depth is kind of where it maybe goes too far. But also I'm a firm believer like in a brand, in a design system, there's kind of a time and place for it. And you know, those ghost cans, if you were to pick one up, like all the stuff is domed in ink, but it's absolutely too much. But the way that it's produced with like the lack of ink and the lack of color and the lack of visibility is kind of the special, like the sweet spot. So I like to make sure that I have a good range of too far to not enough. Does that make sense? Like, did I just,
Yeah.
That probably didn't make sense. I apologize. There, you can go too far. But also your client and a talented designer should know like when too far is too far. And you need to learn how to like push back and say like, no client, that's too far. Yeah.
Has there ever been a time where you've had to like reject a client or essentially cancel a project because they're asking too much or kind of like demanding a little more than it's like than you're it's not like willing to give, but it's like, hey, this is unreasonable?
Yeah, oh yeah. Another spoiler alert, there's some bad human beings out there in the world. And you are going to encounter many of them. So it does. I think it does get to a point where respect needs to be given from both sides. And if your client is just literally abusing you and kind of making you be just like that vessel as an ends to their means, there's no respect there. You're just like, well, I just need you to do this. And so I've walked away mid-project. We've fired clients. We've also been fired mid-project because of lack of respect or for whatever reason. And it's part of the journey. It's learning experiences. And so the sooner that you can learn to communicate with clients and teammates with respect when it comes to like feedback, and that was another thing that I had a hard time with coming out of BYU was learning how to take feedback. Like even still, like when I get into a round one presentation, I'm a mess. Like I'm back. I'm like that art school kid. I'm just like, hope you like it. You know, like, and so I don't know if there's any other professions out there where the emotions go from like, I hope you like this, to like all of a sudden you're a rock star, like the next day you're just like, oh geez, that sucks. You know, like that experience was bad. So learn to communicate with respect, and you'll know when you need to like walk away from a client or project. It'll be abundantly clear, I promise. Yeah, I can barely see you guys. One of you. Let's go. Glasses first. I can see somebody.
You mentioned the first time, or not the first time, but you were kind of sad when a company you did branding for got big and kind of sold out or whatever. How did that like feel the first time? What was your reaction to that, and how did you cope with it?
Regret. And this comes up quite a bit. And it's not that I'm not happy for them, because like the minute that Ghost sold for $4 billion, I was like, holy crap! Never been a part of that kind of a conversation, you know, with a client going from table scraps to like that kind of money. The regret comes when, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I can charge them a little bit more for some of this thing. Like with Prime. Like literally, you have no idea how big and how far and how wide it's ever going to be, right? And it's exciting. Like Dan Florencio of Ghost, he texted me one day after they had their distribution warehouse set up in Vegas, and it was, you know, 1 million square feet or whatever, and the logo is on the side of the building, probably 20 feet by 100 feet. Just this, and he's like, have you ever seen one of your logos this big? I'm like, no, dude, like that's pretty exciting, you know, for me. And so I never get tired of seeing it out in the wild, but the regret comes with people, well, not people, like when opportunities like Prime come along, and I see on social, I'm like, you guys just sold $1 billion bottles? I should have just taken a penny for every one of those bottles, you know? Like, and so it's just me. It's exciting. It's wishful thinking, but also there's some pride there. I'm like, yeah, we did it right. You know, it worked.
What is your favorite design? Like, you have like the University of Oregon slide. Do you like designing like clothes or more like?
I'll give you a clue. It's right there. Like, this is still my passion. This is still my love. In fact, I wake up some days, I'm just kind of like, I feel like maybe I just got some more in me, you know, like just to put out in the world. And if you want, this is weird. If you want to, find me on LinkedIn and not LinkedIn, find me on Instagram and you can go to my stories and you can see every single one of these. This, like, the amount, I don't even know what I'm trying to say, the variability in, like, all of these, I still to this day will sit there and look at the printout of it on my wall and just kind of go like, holy crap, I can't believe I did that. So like, I love doing this. There's an absolute connection of this to different pieces of design. You know, like immediately into snowboards, immediately into like fashion, and some other things. And so, the other part of like this career path, like my journey, is just I get bored. Like I can't imagine like all of my college roommates that went on to be like lawyers. One's a doctor. They hate their lives. One was like a poli-sci graduate, and now he's like a fireman. I love the challenge. Like, if you told me I only had to design websites day in and day out, I would hate that. You know, I love the ability to retell stories for different individuals and different communities over and over and over again. So, no, but yes, maybe. I'm dodging questions left and right. Bring them. Well, yeah.
In the professional industry, when it comes to like creating something from the beginning to like maybe a prototype or a finished product, what's kind of the time frame that looks like? What are you given?
2 weeks for Prime, 2 years for Ghost. Interesting. The University of Oregon, that's a little bit of an older project, but they had some like NCAA infractions where they couldn't recruit. They couldn't like send people out on the road to I don't know, whatever you do when you're a football player, like catch a ball or something. So we literally had to like bring that experience to them digitally. And oh gosh, what was the question again?
How long?
Oh, how long? This was 3 months. And so the through line here is like most clients don't think ahead of time. And they're always like, oh yeah, we should probably have a website. Oh yeah, we're launching Black Friday, you know, and that's not too far away from that. And I literally had this conversation this week. Oh yeah, we're launching Black Friday. We're not even done with your branding and your packaging, and now you're talking about a website. And so it's unfair, it's uncontrollable, and you just got to do what you got to do. And a lot of times you have to think about it as like, okay, you can only do so much, and so you got to get creative in that moment of like what you can do given the time and the budget and whatever those constraints are. Ooh.
Where's Travis?
We have a hand over here.
Yeah.
How long do we go till?
You can go to the bottom of the hour.
Okay. 8:30. People.
Forced to sit here and listen to me. There was a number. I want to get to everybody, like, but we were over here. Was it you?
I have two quick, like one quick one and then a regular one. With the iterations, how many, like, what proportion of the iterations are just small tweaks on designs, and then what proportion are like very distinct from the others? And then you said you pull inspiration from fashion and like skate parks. Has there been a band or several bands where you've gotten inspiration from, like
musically?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't do anything about music. Music's like a huge part of my life. And so yes. I can't think of anything, like any specific example. I mean, like it's, if you were to look at, if you keep plugging this, I apologize. if you go and find this on my Instagram, this to me was like the weirdest experiment that I just kind of went into unintentionally. But with each of these, I had a soundtrack to it. I have a playlist of like over 300 songs that I pulled inspiration from to do these. And so a lot of times it's not like a direct, like, oh, they inspired me. A lot of times it's back to the emotion. Like, where was my head at? What was I feeling? What was I doing in my life? A lot of this I can point back to very specific, like right there. Oh, I'm pointing on it. Like this right here. His favorite band is Deftones, and so last October we went and saw Deftones and Idols, big Idols fan. But that's kind of where my inspiration comes from, right? And so yeah, like I use different types of music for different projects, just to like trying to get the gears going, if you will. That answer it? Is that good? Oh, but variations. You asked about like iterations. A lot on the front. A lot on the front, and this actually applies to your question too. Yes? Ma'am? I don't know what's but when you're talking about like concepting, when I'm going through and I'm just churning out ideas, I get to a point where I'm exhausted. Like, I don't have anything left in the tank. That's when I'll kind of survey the land and pick the ones that give like a good spectrum of like, I push my clients, I give them some like relatively like safe solutions, and there's a lot in between. And then it's just deciding, I'm like, okay, how many can I put in front of a client? Depends on the client, because like some clients literally can't use their imagination, or they can't provide feedback, and so the more you put in front of them, just the more confusing it is for them. And so there's a lot to kind of go into it, but like I explore like I said, as far and as wide as I can, and then I make decisions on what's going to go back in front of me. Good question. Yeah.
Okay. I always find that I have trouble when someone gives me a concept and I can only think of maybe two things. How do you, I guess, train your brain to pick at everything and just be like, okay, I'm gonna run with this, and oh, this would be interesting too. Like, how do you kind of get more imaginative? I guess if there's like a
I walk away from the computer. Gabe taught me that as well, because like when you're young and you're inexperienced and you're struggling to find that path, I would get to that point, still get to that point, and him and I, like, he's like, let's just go for a walk, and we just walk. There was a snowboard shop 3 doors down, so we just walk over there and just kind of take it all in, bookmark some ideas. I scrap a lot. Look at my desktop. That's clean. But if there's something even not related to a project, I'm saving it because I'm like, that inspired me. I don't know for what, but I'm going to use it at some other point. So if I get frustrated, I go back to the well. I get away from the computer. Part of your process, like that's my process. But you need to find what works for you, and a lot of times, and I tell him the same thing, like, get away from it. It's an exercise in futility. You just need to like get away from it, clear your head, clear your palate, and go back. And you'll find that you'll get there. Yeah.
I might have forgotten the moment it was said, but I don't remember your name.
I don't think I said my name. You said my name. My name's Jared. Strain. S-T-R-E-I-N. Good question. I got that one.
Did I say your name?
Maybe? Yeah, way back there. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. What was it? Can you say it a little louder? I'm old in my appearance. So.
It's okay. As a designer, do you get any royalties for any like the logos that you make? So you get like a percentage back, or
I wish. And there's agencies that like have built models of that. It's like, okay, if this logo, if this brand performs, you'll get commissions based on. I've never done that. I probably should have. Again, back to fine, like, just give me a penny for every one of those bottles. And, it's good to think about, but so the question that we get asked quite a bit is, what was the return on the brand? We get this question with Ghost a lot just because it's like so visible, right? They're like, new clients want to understand the value of a brand. And that's incredibly hard to put like a price tag on. With them, they had a valuation and it was $4 billion. We weren't responsible for that. I mean, there's like so much that goes into it, like the selling, the marketing that we don't do. And so, you could get yourself into like some pretty precarious situations if like you were counting on royalties and they weren't holding up their end of the bargain. So something to think about, and if you figure it out, like drop me an email because I will take that advice. Yeah.
Okay. What are some must-have skills that an intern should have other than being different, having a unique perspective?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? What should a designer have or perspective what?
What are some must-have skills that an intern should have other than having a unique perspective or approach?
Great question. Like I said earlier, like first and foremost, I want to see like good thinking. But I also want to, the first 2 or 3 interns that I had literally couldn't design their way out of a box. I just had them because I just wanted to go skate with them. So shame on me. But beyond that, I think you need to have like a good sense of typography. Like that's kind of like my next request when I'm looking is like, okay, are they typographically sound? Can they use type intelligently? And those 2 things, like if it's good concepting and thinking and like good typographic skills, I know that I have something to work with. Yeah.
Over spring semester, I took an introductory graphic design class and typography class, and the structure of the class wasn't really laid out like how to use the software. And so I guess my question is, if your experience was different at NYU, and if you didn't get that in like construction, how did you learn how to use the software?
Solid question. And I don't know if it applies anymore, to your point. When I was here at UVSC, whatever it was all application specific. They were teaching us Quark. I learned how to design editorial like in Quark Express, which I don't think exists anymore, which is now InDesign. So I had a different experience here at UVU learning software applications as a tool. The difference was for me when I went to BYU, they didn't acknowledge software at all. They didn't care how it happened, but it needed to happen. And so I was kind of fortunate in the way that like, yeah, I had some background with software, understood it. They taught thinking. They taught foundational, like how to understand, inspiration, the history of design, the history of art. And so it was 2 different schools of thought. And I don't know if that's kind of changed now. I think it has because like I've had some employees teach here, and like the program is miles ahead of where it was when I was here. But good question, because like I think you do need to have like a baseline understanding of like the software. And when I say that kid that was my intern, actually he was a missionary and he met me in Seattle and I fed him, so he just kept coming back. He had never cracked open software, but he wanted to be a designer. So it was hard for me because I'm like, all right, this is how you make a circle. This is how you pick type or you set type. The difference was he had good ideas, and so like it was more of like, hey, like what could this become rather than him jumping into the computer and noodling or understanding like the nuances of it. Does that make sense? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you.
I'm
that I have is like this type of business, they want to look for younger, like fresher people. And so I'm just wondering, besides like having a good portfolio, which I know is really important, do you have any other tips for somebody, you know, in my age category?
Look at me. I probably got like 30 years on you, and I am older and crustier, and I'm somehow still relevant. You know, that's tough. It's not tough for you, but it's tough because there's individuals and there's people out there that think that way. Me, again, it comes back to the idea, and if you can do the job, and if you can perform and do what I need you to do, green jacket, red jacket, who gives a shit? You know, it doesn't matter. Like, I need people that can think and perform, and age for me has never been an issue. Well, I've always been the oldest guy everywhere I've gone, even tonight, I think. So don't let that get in your way. Like, don't even let that enter your mind. Honestly, like, your work is going to speak for you.
Yeah, I heard like LinkedIn, I think it's LinkedIn, they don't, if you're over 40, they don't even like match you with jobs or something. Like I can't remember which job thing it is. I'm like, what? Like that's not cool.
I mean, I don't know if that's a thing. I know that there's a lot of individuals and thought leaders that I follow that speak out against ageism. And so, yeah, you're going to encounter like some individuals that you probably don't want to work for anyways. If they think that way, then shame on them. Like, you don't want to poison yourself for dealing with that. Oh, yeah.
So I tend to find that I really like solitude when I create. Do you find you prefer solitude, or would you rather be in a collaborative space, or you have to be in a collaborative space, but you would retreat to go create your own thing? What do you find juxtaposition in with this type of prayer?
Good question. That's part of your process. My process is I love chaos, I love noise, I love friction. I feel best when I turn the music up so loud that I can't hear myself think, and I'm just going through my motions. And I love having individuals around. And it doesn't even really have to be music that I'm into. Like, I just need that kind of distraction. But I thrive off of collaboration. So I need people around, but they need to be okay with my environment. Yeah.
Who are 5 of your favorite metal bands? Like, just off the top of your head. They don't have to be like your true favorite, but
Slayer.
Right.
I mean, Slayer, like old Metallica, nothing after like And Justice. Everything else is garbage. Priest. Sometimes Dio. I don't know. Recently is kind of off topic. Apologies. There's like some new metal bands that I'm kind of getting like dabbling with, like Sleep Token. Like, uncharacteristic of me, but I'm like, all right. They're awesome. Entering the rotation here and there. So, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
What do you do in a point of time when you're not getting any jobs for a while? I'm at a point in time right now where I'm finishing up like some projects, but I'm not expecting any more. What do you do in that point of time?
Panic. Start to look at your bank account and go, oh, how long can I live in this situation? You know, I get scrappy. The part of the story with STS and when we started was, I was at another agency downtown. And I took it, like, when I moved back from Seattle, I took a job and realized that it wasn't for me. And so I started up STS, like formally, like V1 of the webpage. But it was a culmination of a lot of work. It was my portfolio. They took exception to it, and I ripped all the work down. Can you imagine like trying to find work without a portfolio? And so literally, I relied off of nonsense, made up just made up shit. Like I would just make up posters, I would just anything for attention. And kind of going back to the slide right here, I literally I designed and I paid for like a run of skateboards, and I just started mailing those around to individuals that I had no idea who they were, or they didn't know me from Adam. And so yeah, you gotta get creative. You gotta hustle. I hop on LinkedIn and I'll start like saying hello to people. That's a great place. Like it's become like a great resource just to meet people that are making decisions, like brand managers, CMOs, whomever, just to get in front of them. Creative directors, make friends with creative directors, and they'll start to slide you into the mix. Yeah.
What goes into setting a price for a client?
Whatever you can get out of them. I'm still searching for that. I don't know, because a lot of times clients will come to you with a budget. I have $2 and I need all this stuff. Like, oh, okay, well, you can get some of the stuff. I've tried desperately for years to get to a place of like value-based pricing, meaning like, you sell this work, what do you think the value is of it to you? Doesn't always work, but a lot of times either I know just through like the data that I have of what the time it takes to execute on most, if any, project, and so I can kind of assign a budget. I know what it's going to cost me to put back on them and then mark it up. But a lot of times you need to look at it as also an opportunity. Like, and it's kind of hard to tell, right? I had no idea in that moment with Prime how big and how far I was going to go. It's come back 10x for me, just from people going like, "Oh, you guys did Prime? Sweet! We want to be the next Prime." I'm like, all right. So there's not a magical formula anywhere. It's just kind of like understand what your time is worth, how long you think it's going to take you, be open and transparent with your costs and the client. If that doesn't align with their budgets, figure out what their budget is and then kind of put it back on them. Like, all right, this is what I can do. Maybe I trim off a round of feedback. Maybe instead of like 3 rounds, we go 2 rounds. Maybe instead of 3 deliverables, it's down to like 1 deliverable. Or you could think about it as like, okay, we do this a lot, a phased approach. Like, all right, you don't have all the money right now. We're going to get you to market. We're going to figure out how that's going to look. And we know that we can come back after the fact when you have some more money to allocate, that we can backfill whatever that ask might be. Messaging, maybe it's a V2 of the website, maybe it's some additional packaging systems, I don't know. But your time is your work, and just understand, like, we are all a business, and that's what they're paying for, and they can either get somebody $150 an hour, or they can get somebody at $50 an hour, and I've had more clients that I can count go, oh, we can't afford that, and I've got a neighbor around the corner that knows Photoshop, and I'll just have him do it. And then they come back, and you end up cleaning up their mess. That feels pretty good when they come back. You're like, yeah, I told you. Now it's going to cost you more. Yeah?
I'm wondering if you have a website or Instagram, can show us.
Do I? Yeah, you can hop over to the agency's website, wearetopsecret.com. Nobody ever asked me for my Insta. I don't even know what it is. Roman, what is it? It's like Jared dot strain, Jared underscore strain, something.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I know that you had mentioned that you decided pretty early on that skating kind of like who you were and kind of your style, but did you ever feel like you had any like imposter syndrome or kind of like second guessing if you were going to make it in design?
Yeah. In fact, I'm going back to my notes here because Oh yeah, this was on this page, if you remember my presentation earlier, it says, maybe this is where I get my imposter syndrome from. Yes, that's a real thing. Yeah, I don't, everybody I know, like, has a version of it. I don't know if it ever goes away. Like even now, I'm like, why am I standing in front of you guys talking about all this stuff? Because you guys are gonna do much bigger and better things than me. The secret is, and this was another kind of ism from Gabe, I'm a quiet person for the most part. This is probably the most words I've used in 6 months. There was a moment that we were going down to Nike from Seattle, and it was before there were any other teammates, so it was just him and I. And on the way down, he's like, Jared, I need you to talk. And I'm like, what the freak am I gonna say to like somebody at Nike? I'm a junior designer, I've been out of school like less than a year, like what do I have to bring to the table? The lesson there is I also feel silence with sound and words and questions, and I've gotten really inquisitive and curious, and so I've learned to just ask questions. As long as they're talking and I'm not, I am winning. And so when I get in with new clients, old clients, I want to make sure that I'm asking questions. And don't be afraid to ask questions. I think that was kind of like a little bit of the fallacy early on with me. Is like, I don't want to ask a question and they're going to think I'm stupid for asking that question. I'm like, there's no dumb questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Like the sooner you realize that by asking a question, you're looking more intelligent, you're looking smarter, and you're getting the information that you need, you're learning, that's another takeaway. Like, ask questions, talk. Don't be afraid to like raise your voice. Yeah.
What do you recommend to designers who are trying to find their style still?
Style's bullshit. Sorry. I mean, I say that only because like I push back again with that a lot, because I think that's a lot of younger designers are kind of like trying to define their style. Like, oh, who am I to the world? And style is fleeting. Style is a trend that's going to be dead tomorrow. And so the sooner that you can learn to adopt trends, adopt influence, like this slide, for example. If you know who Mike Giant is, Mike Giant's like this kind of famous, he was a tattoo artist. He actually did a mural at the Adobe building. It looks like that. Like, it's literally like, there's styles that you can take and find influence from. And there's bits and pieces in like subculture that are like the little nugget, the little insight that you can hang a concept on. Like this deck right here, well, actually both of these decks, like the red one, going back to music, like that's like straight up like Motley Crue, Def Leppard influence right there. And these rips and these tears exposing down into the wood grain of the deck. That's from a skateboard from my youth. Like the old Pal Peralta Ripper skateboard, like that's it. And so like, not my style, but I was influenced by it, and I learned to find influence and put it into places without having a definable style of my own. And I always kind of caution like some of my younger designers, because well, let me undo that a little bit, because I think there's absolutely styles in illustration. Like I think illustrators have a style, like this kind of part of your expression, right? I think designers have a little more latitude to pick and choose and steal, whereas illustrators are kind of like, yeah, they can bite style as well, but they kind of have like their own defining moment. So if you're a designer, I don't know if you're a designer or illustrator, but like, find versatility. When I some of the best designers I've had that I've worked with, that I've hired, started out as illustrators, but they found a way to kind of take those influences and like put them into different places. Like Dan Christopherson, I don't know if you know who he is, like he's part of Young Jerks. Incredibly talented illustrator, one of the best designers I've ever worked with. But it was because it was the lack of style, but he also had his art style. I mean, it sounds nonsensical when I say it out loud to you, but I'm like, find versatility, find ways to like find influence and not be bound by a single style that's either going to be dead next week or 2 years from now, whatever it is.
So you mentioned having creative fatigue. Has that ever gotten to the point where you've been like burned out and had to like take a step back, or like how do you avoid getting to that point?
I think I get creative. Like this was my creative fatigue. Like I was burnt out. I wasn't finding joy in what I was doing, and so I recognized that. And I think a lot of that just came with young team members like giving me shit about like being old and tired and not having like any good ideas anymore, like the trauma. I'm like, screw you, I got something, and so yeah, if you're at that point where you're feeling creatively fatigued, acknowledge it for what it is and find a way to get it back, whatever that is. Like this started as a stupid like personal project, and I learned a lot from it. And if you did the same, maybe this is another insight. Because there's a place at the table for all of us as creatives, as designers, illustrators, photographers, whatever. The minute you leave school and you kind of get into that professional setting, if you aren't doing the kind of work that inspires you, that makes you happy, that brings joy, you need to find that. Like happiness is like so underrated. I mean, like go and find whatever that is that makes you happy and brings you joy, and do it. This was what it was for me, and it reignited my fire. Like I'm like, oh sweet, I've got like a lot of different things that I can pull from now. And I find with friends and coworkers that have gone on, like when they go, and this isn't a bad thing because everybody's happiness is relevant to them, but like they're like, I hate my job, I hate the work, I'm not doing anything inspiring. I'm like, that's your bad. Go and do something. It goes the other way, like to your point, like if you do get fatigued, like acknowledge it, figure out what is going to bring you happy, and then chase it. Yeah.
When you're working with clients, how do you get on the same page as them, or like figure out what they're looking for? Do you ask for like inspo, references, mood boards?
Usually not. Well, not sure. Some clients come in like Dan did with the goggle strap, and like to him that was his brand. Like that, he's like that was his inspiration. This isn't unique to STS, but like we go through a fairly in-depth, like upfront intake where we have strategists, designers, copywriters, account managers that are essentially. I mean, we have a series of questions that we like to get through to kind of understand the task at hand. And sometimes that comes out in the client's like, yeah, I've got some inspiration, and I'm happy to look at it and try to understand like where they're coming from. But after that, we will go through, and once we kind of understand the lay of the land, we will go through our own mood board exercise. We'll find our own inspiration. And usually that means, a handful of designers will kind of disperse, grab a bunch of stuff, find consistencies in whatever the reference is, and we'll put it into buckets, and we'll talk, like as a team, we'll talk about it. Why did you pull that? What is it? And we'll find very deliberate perspectives that we can put back in front of the client that still aligns with what they want to do and what they want to do. But we're also inspiring. Our job is to inspire our clients, and so like we do that. We're like, we hear you. We understand like what this inspiration for you is. This is how we can take and we can build on it, and we can enrich this world. And so sometimes it's also relevant to the client. Like some clients are just like, hey, I'm using Dan, I'm picking on Dan, but it was like, he was so adamant on like that goggle strap being the solution that it was frustrating, but you have to kind of meet them where they're at, and some clients are visual, some clients can't express why they like anything at all, ever, and so that's an exercise in and of itself, like, do you like blue? What shade of blue? What does blue mean to you? You know, it's frustrating, but some clients are like, vivid imagination, let you just kind of run wild, and those are the clients that I like to work with.
Probably the last one or two questions.
This is going to be his last chance.
Anybody
Oh,
else?
nobody has a last question. Amen. Hit me.
So I noticed that you're not a big illustrator, so I'm just curious where you get the illustrations like on your boards.
All this is found. Like I love going through like archives of old books, old stuff, finding those like treasures, those diamonds in the rough, and pulling them out, either reworking them or redrawing them. And yeah, this is awful. Yeah, I didn't draw any of this stuff. Not sure. What if I did? If you think it's good. Nothing to write home to mom about. Good question. Yeah.
Have you ever run into copyright issues doing that?
Doing this? No.
Well, using the found art, like you were saying.
Found art? Like I would never. If I turn this into like a retail component, yeah, I would be in a lot of trouble. I mean, like look at Dollar Parton right there. That's an accident didn't happen. The twist is like taking this, and this is kind of the same exercise that we do for snowboards. Like I call it applied style boards. It's found art, it's found typography. It doesn't say what I want it to say, but it's still the vibe and the essence. The onus is on me afterwards to go and recreate it afterwards. Where it's not this, it's going to have some DNA from this, but it's not going to be this. But like, yeah, I would never put anything that I just grabbed from the wild back out into market. Like that's a big no-no.
Sorry, kind of tagging on that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So would you be able to sell the posters of this like you made for your office or no?
I offered up these posters for family and friends. I don't make any money off them. It's just like they pay for the printing and the shipping of it from a service. So if I was making money off it, I would feel bad. But yeah, I don't feel bad for this. And there's also I don't know exactly what the legal position would be. Like I've modified all this stuff like so much, maybe with the exception of Dolly right there and some of the other stuff, but it's unrecognizable, and you would never find like my source. Good question.
All right. Thank you, guys.
You should. Like it's started to do maybe like some Sabbath, like there's an album that's not even Sabbath. So he's one of my favorites. All right.
There's going to be a couple of discussions. I'm definitely going to do high so I knocked yours. So give me a couple.
Variety. Correct.
But if you watch the lectures stick out exactly as
I did that.
So you don't have to use alternate design. As I said, this lecture, you your last lecture.
You would. I should have brought like my portfolio.
Well, do that. Feel free. But we encourage you.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
I think if this is recorded, I hope we don't have to continue time next week. You may regret this. I hope the class is empty. But if you go to the website, I would just do the recording. You just get like the assignments. So. There's a form field, like you go to the QA. All right. Otherwise, I think we're good. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's good to know. In all honesty, I think everybody else on the board. So.
Not all of them like this.
Yeah. Okay. Just like.
It was a bit disappointing.
Whatever you think.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.
Well, and there's some reasons we couldn't go into the word. But I thought that was the reason when we talked together.
Yeah.
Was you had a look. And
Did you hear what I said? Like, if you just go to Hello, like our website, there's a connect form field. Just drop me a note. Like, it literally like goes straight to me. So yeah, just mention EVU. What was that?
If you're looking for like more diversity,
Always.
I'll just think about that if you want to get.
What was I going to say? Typically internships go. We start looking.
I'm still debating.
I thought it was springtime for
somewhere down the road.
Usually we look for like a June to August. If I was really proactive, I just got too busy. Like usually I also do like a September. It's 3 months, so September to.
But I do.
December or whatever. Usually that's kind of like the book is.
Yeah, I'm just looking for like that.
Well, it just gives the age, like you get just more experience exploring. And that's, school adds the finishing touches of being paid up sometimes as that.
Wake up and get tomorrow.
Because you just have more time to play. But you can get
You bet.
Hey, John. Hey, man. So,
Who? Brandy? I love Brandy, yeah. Oh, nice. I love Brandy.
I was going to ask you a board question.
Yeah, in fact,
you just want a single piece.
When she was with us, she
almost got married to
yeah.
Before you check in today.
Yeah, they both got remarried. She's so thoughtful.
It's on the calendar.
I'm trying to remember which of my kids. I think it was
perfect.
His younger sister. She, even after she wasn't working with us, she sent like a nice baby gift, a nice card. I'm like, she's like a good human being.
She takes that from my dad a lot.
Well, kudos to him. Sounds like you have a good dad. Yeah, say hi to her for me.
Definitely.
You too.
I
Hi.
don't have any questions. I just wanted to shake your hand.
All right. Nobody ever shakes my hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. But
Right.
It's like I don't walk around and people are like, you know, whatever that formality is.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I guess I do have a question. I did, but I do now. What made you like start your own design?
Agency?
Yeah, agency.
Pure dumb luck.
Okay.
Like when I quit, when I was leaving Seattle and Gabe shut the agency